for a stellar job as always. This is KT4 Alpha Sierra, and it's time now for the West Central Florida Section TechNet. My call again is KT4AS. Will be net control for tonight's net. If you want to find out who I am, see a picture of me, it's QRZ.com. So before we begin, are there any stations or relays with emergency or priority traffic? Heard. This net meets every Thursday at 9 o'clock or shortly thereafter, after the Eagle Net, and we're open to everybody. It's really designed for you to learn something, for all of us to learn something, to ask your questions and maybe get some assistance from other people who checked in and on the air. So if you have a question, we really would like to hear it. Sometimes we're short on questions. Now, I'm also going to give you some technical trivia questions, which are usually a lot of fun. This net is held on the NI4CE repeater system. Information about it is available at NI4CE.org. And don't forget, short transmit delay. So key your mic and wait about a half a second and then begin speaking. First off, we want to call for any Arrl section officials. If that's you, call now and check in.
Net control. Control, please check in November 4 Romeo Tango Delta N4 RTD Russ and Lakeland. Assistant Section Manager. They have no traffic.
N4RDT, we've got you on the log here. Any more section officials? Call now. Moving on to tech specialist. If you're a ARRL official tech specialist like myself, call now.
Net control.
Lima, W0MJL, Mike in Nokomis, Tech Specialist. Good evening, Paul.
Howdy, buddy. W0MJL, Mike, and I think Daryl is checking in as well. Is that you, Daryl?
Net control, this is Tango 4 Whiskey X-Ray. Daryl out in the Lake Buffum area on the handheld tonight. I have no traffic for the net, and I will be checking out in 30 minutes. It'll be bedtime. Well, actually about 20 minutes from now. So I'll run along to about 21:30, then I'll need permission to secure at that point. Back to that, KT4WX.
That's Daryl, KT4WX, the one who started this net many years ago. And if you have any questions, he's the man with the answers. Any more tech specialists like to check in? Okay, let's move along to general check-ins. If you'd like to check into the net with either a question or you just want to stand by and perhaps answer somebody else's question, call now.
KT4YZ.
KT4, would you give me the suffix, please?
Yankee Foxtrot Zulu, Alex and Wimoma.
Give it to me one more time, okay?
Kilo Quebec 4, Yankee Foxtrot Zulu.
Your name?
It's Alex and Wimoma.
Alex, thank you very much for being here. Any more check-ins for the TechNet? Call now.
Oh.
There's Kilo 4 Golf Echo Oscar. George? Not tech trained. Good evening, Paul.
Well, howdy, George. Port Charlotte, right? more check-ins for the TechNet? Call now, please.
Net control, please check in Whiskey 4. Romeo Victor X-ray, Bill and Bartow. Good evening, Paul. No questions tonight, just riding along, listening and learning. Back to net control.
Bartow Bill, one of my favorite ham radio operators, W4RVX. Any more check-ins, hopefully with questions, but if not, check in anyway.
Net control. Net control, this is Kilo, Quebec 4, Foxtrot, Juliet, Zulu. Britain, with questions, KQ4, FJZ.
KQ4F what?
Foxtrot, Juliet, Zulu.
Hey, and I'm glad you have a question. That is a good sign here tonight. Any more check-ins, with or without questions, call now.
Control, Kilo, Quebec 4, Whiskey, November, Yankee, Operator Evan in Manatee County. No questions tonight, 73 to you, sir. KQ4, WNY.
Questions, right?
Net control, Kilo Quebec 4, Yankee Zulu November, Matt Citrus Park. No questions as yet. Over.
You never know when one might come up. What's your name again?
That's Matt up in Citrus Park, Hillsborough County.
Citrus Park, I know it well. I had family that used to teach at Citrus Park School. Any more check-ins for the TechNet? Call now.
Control, Kilo, Quebec 4, Whiskey, November, Yankee, Operator Evan in Manatee County. No questions this evening, 73 to you, sir. KQ4, WNY.
Okay, KQ4WNY. Any other stations for the TechNet? Call now. Net control. Please check in Kilo, Quebec 4, Lima, Uniform, Juliet. This is Scooter in Lake Alfred. And Paul, I'm sorry, I missed I didn't miss it, but I forgot what your call sign is. Could you give it to me one more time? You betcha, Scooter. It's KT4AS. I'm glad the FCC didn't put another S on the end. Hi. Or at least 3 more. Okay, Scooter. Are we getting X-rated here? I don't know. Anyway, anybody else want to check in for the TechNet with questions or without questions?
Net control, checking Kilo Whiskey 4, Tango Charlie Bravo. This is Citrus County. Not trained, no.
You dropped out on the name. I got your call, but what's the name again?
Name is Phil, Papa Hotel, India Lima.
Okay, good evening to you, Phil, and thank you for checking in tonight. Any more TechNet check-ins? Come now.
Please check in Kilo, Echo 8, Bravo. Ron, Sarasota County, just listening this evening. Paul, KE8B.
Oh, hello there, Ron, another one of my favorite ham radio operators who does a wonderful job as Sunday night net control for the Eagle Net. Any more check-ins, with or without questions? Hopefully questions. Come now.
Oh, please check in Kilo 4, Victor Romeo Sierra, with questions.
Wonderful questions. The call letter is Kilo what? I got the Victor Romeo Sierra, but I didn't get the prefix.
A4, Victor Romeo Sierra, Kilo 4, Victor Romeo Sierra.
Name, please. You used to say on CB, your handle, please.
This is Steve in Lake Alfred, and one of the questions for the net is how do you turn a UHF UHF antenna into a VHF antenna. I'm sorry, to be more specific, how do you turn a UHF Yagi antenna into a VHF Yagi antenna?
Okay, well, we'll have that out for grabs after we finish check-ins, okay? I think that's probably a very good question. Any more check-ins for the net? Call now. More check-ins for the TechNet, please call now. There's your question. Steve, would you repeat your question, please?
Affirmative. I went and ordered a Yagi antenna on Amazon that is for 407 to 470 megahertz. And my question is how do you, I believe it's a, let's see, it's a UHF antenna, and it's a UHF Yagi antenna. So my question is how would you turn that into a Yagi antenna on how to, let's see, communicate on 120 megahertz and above?
I mean, like including VHF. If it's going to work on VHF, it's probably also going to work, or it's going to work on UHF, it'll probably work on VHF. My antenna has both bands on it, and the harmonics of the bands, I guess, are similar. But does anybody have any comments about this? And I didn't forget our other question, Q4FJZ. Who's going to be next? Anybody have any comments for Steve? Go ahead.
I'm not sure if I'm being any help. I'm not sure what antenna he bought, but if it's the same one I got from Amazon, it's the, let's see, 5-element Yagi. I use it on both UHF and VHF. I don't know if he has one that's built strictly for UHF.
Okay, and Darrell, if you're still there, you might have some ideas on this. Any ideas, Darrell? It's up early. He's probably turned in. Anybody else have any comments about that? Well, I think the last station basically said the same thing I did. If it works on UHF, it'll most likely work on VHF. I think that's probably the case. Over.
For VRS, let me read the exact description. It is a 7 dB outdoor Yagi antenna, 100 watt, 400 to 470 megahertz high gain antenna with SLX 1616 email connector for UHF, mobile radio, and two-way radio. That is the description they give me on Amazon there. So it says it's a UHF antenna. So yeah, that's figured myself. If it communicates on ultra high frequency, it will communicate on very high frequency. But I would imagine I would have to increase the gain of that Yagi antenna. Over.
That's probably correct. Does anybody have any other comments?
KQ4WNY here. Hey, sir, if you have an SWR meter, it'd be a good thing to hook that up to it. Test it on your two bands and see if you're, above or below 2. SWR meter will tell you more than anything else. KQ4WNY.
SWR meter will always help. However, I don't have one at this time. However, it gives a specific SWR, as they advertise
anything under 2 to 1 is okay from what I've heard. Okay, let's see if there's any more check-ins for the TechNet. Come now.
Net Control, Kilo Quebec 4, Romeo Quebec Oscar, Alex here.
Kilo, did you already check in?
No, I've only just turned on my radio. I forgot about the TechNet and the EagleNet for that matter.
You're checked in. KQ4 what?
Kilo Quebec 4, Romeo Quebec Oscar, how copy?
This is the TechNet, and you might be able to offer some advice to somebody with a technical question if you hang around, okay?
Roger that.
Okay, and of course we always promise trivia questions. Here's one you might be able to figure out by the country of the call sign. Delta Echo Kilo Kilo Alpha was the call sign for what famous craft? If anybody knows that one, call in. And then another question to think about, what was the first year of the first pocket transistor radio? If you know the answer to either one of those, holler contact and hopefully you have the right answer. Are you stumped already, gang? Let me repeat those questions. Delta Echo Kilo Kilo Alpha was first used by a famous craft, and I'll give you a hint, it was a German craft with a swastika on it.
Contact.
Ed?
KQ4FJZ. I'm going to guess the Hindenburg.
So, you're another big winner, and the prize is my kindest personal regards. How's that?
It's weight in gold.
Okay, nobody has guessed on the year of the first pocket transistor radio. And I'll throw out another question. 18.068 to 18.168 is in what ham band? You know what band those frequencies are in?
Contact.
The band, the megahertz or whatever it was, again, please. 18.068 to 18.168. What band is that? $17 to me. That is correct. Got another one for you, folks. What does MUF stand for in ham radio?
What the heck? Hey, Paul, W4VX. If I'm not mistaken, if my memory serves me correctly, the first transistor radio was made by Regency in 1954. The reason I know that is because my dad gave me that radio when I was 10 years old for my 10th birthday. And I actually still have it somewhere. I think I'd have to say 1954.
Totally and absolutely correct. The Regency KR1, I think it was, or YR1, 1954. You are right. So we got 3 questions answered so far. How about MUF? What does that stand for?
Kilo Quebec 4 Golf Hotel Victor, that would be maximum useful frequency.
Next, so.
down low. I got Kilo November 4. What's the suffix, please? Got it, KN4WEY, and your name? Ted, thanks for checking in. One more time, does anybody know what MUF stands for in terms of radio propagation?
Control. This is Kilo Quebec 4 Golf Hotel Victor. MUF would be maximum usable frequency.
Correct, maximum usable frequency, and that's very important because if you're on the wrong band at the wrong time, you ain't going to hear anything, to use well English. Okay, let's try another one here. Approximate distance of an EME contact. EME, what's the approximate distance? EME, by the way, stands for Earth, Moon, Earth. What's the approximate distance of Earth, Moon, Earth? We'll leave that out in the air to see what happens. Next question. Who invented FM? FM, frequency modulation. Who invented that? I'll give you a hint. He worked for Sarnoff at RCA for a while, and they had some problems with each other, and he was no longer working for Sarnoff, who did some very nasty things to him, which possibly and maybe probably ended up in this man's divorce, or suicide, excuse me. Maybe as bad as divorce. Anyway, the inventor of FM, who knows?
Net control contact.
Contact.
Edwin Howard Armstrong.
Him. Yeah, when he committed suicide, he put on his best suit and went to the window and jumped out of his 13th floor window in New York City. And at his funeral, David Sarnoff said, "I wasn't the one that caused him to jump," but a lot of people say he did, because what he did, Sarnoff did, is he had some pals and some power into the FCC, and he had the FCC change the frequency range for the FM band, and Armstrong had all kinds of radio stations, and there were like hundreds of thousands of FM radios in his band, and it was changed to 88 to 108, which destroyed Armstrong. So anyway, that was really a bad thing. He lost a lot of money on that deal, and he lost his FM network. That was a dirty trick. Even though Sarnoff was a brilliant man and a great pioneer, he also was something that proctologists work on. Okay, besides the telegraph, what was Samuel Morse famous for? Does anybody know that one? Go back to the EME. If you can figure the distance from the Earth to the Moon, and then from the Moon to the Earth, you have an idea of the distance of an EME contact. So you want to says anybody?
Control contact.
Go ahead, thank you.
184,400 kilometers.
No, that's not enough. That's only one shot. That's only one. The Earth is about 300,000 miles, or a little less than 300,000 miles from the Earth to the Moon. So you'll have to double that, and I'll go ahead and give you the answer. It's about 500,000 miles. Usually when people do those kind of contacts, and I actually witnessed one once, is they use CW because that's a long trip of hundreds of thousands of miles, and the signal, of course, is very weak when it comes back to the Earth. And the moon is not a very good reflector, they say. So you get a very weak signal right down into the noise, and CW is about the get through. The other question out for grabs is, besides the telegraph, what was Morse famous for?
Contact.
You want to take a guess?
Contact.
Please.
I want to say Morse code.
What he's famous for, but what else was he famous for? It had nothing to do with Morse code. Let's put it this way: it was in the arts. Yes?
And actually painted people's heads.
Painting. They say he was a wonderful painter. Okay. Let's see if we have any more check-ins while we got a little pause here. Anybody want to check in or ask a question or both to the TechNet? Call now.
Net control for a check-in.
Okay, go ahead. And you know what? Yeah, go ahead and check in. I forgot somebody has a question that I need to get to. Go ahead, check in.
Good. Whiskey 6, Foxtrot, Charlie, Bradenton, Manatee County.
All right, all I got out of that was Manatee County. You're not holding the repeater very well. That happens to me sometimes. Try it again.
Okay, back. Whiskey 6, Foxtrot, Golf, Charlie, Frank, Manatee County. No questions.
Hey, good evening, Frank, in Manatee County. I got your call. You're from the West Coast by your call sign. I think I have a question here that I accidentally forgot. KQ4FJZ. You have a question, right?
KQ4FJZ. I have two questions, actually.
Sorry that I missed you. I got carried away here. Go ahead with your question.
All right, so I recently upgraded to General, so my questions are about HF antennas. So the first one is, who can explain to me why some antennas require a ground while others require a counterpoise? How do you know when an antenna needs a ground versus a counterpoise?
I have no idea, but does anybody on the net know the difference between if you need a ground or a counterpoise?
The more wire you run, the more better.
Okay, well, that sounds reasonable. Anybody else have any comments? I guess that's the best we're going to do on explanations. What's your second question?
Well, on that explanation, I was not able to make that out. Are you able to repeat that for me?
What you said to me, I think you said something about the more wire you would need a ground. Is that right?
Kilo 4, Victor Romeo Sierra, KK4VRS. The more wire, the more better.
The more wire, the more better.
So does that mean, given the opportunity, choose a long counterpoise versus choosing to ground?
I think what that means is the grounds have to be a lot of grounds, a lot of wire grounds. Is that what you meant, Station?
To me, that the more wire you run on your center lead would be a whole lot more than what you would run on your ground lead. Essentially, you would want to basically run a wire plugged into a stake, plugged into the ground. That's about as simple as I can get. Kilo 4, Victor Romeo Sierra.
Okay, well that makes sense to me. How about it, KQ4FJZ? Does that make any sense to you?
I think so. I can go on to the second question.
Okay, question number 2, go ahead.
While I don't have an ideal antenna set up yet, I'm currently using my gutter for HF. It seems that because I'm guessing because it's a horizontal setup, that's why I can't get anything locally, and I can only get things that are at least 500 miles away. Is vertical better for local HF?
My opinion is yes. Like, I used to run a local net on 10 meters, and most all of us had vertical 10-meter antennas. And I think you're right. A horizontal antenna works better at a longer range.
KD4TWS, I haven't checked in yet, but I do have some answers. Kilo Delta 4, Tango Whiskey Sierra. My name is Tom, Tango Oscar Mike.
Tom, you have the floor.
Good. Well, on the first question, it was too broad of a question. The dipole antennas, which is you have a counterpoise, is a different setup than a vertical with a ground system, depending on what you're running. So that's a really broad question. It takes some looking into, some research for sure. And no, on the vertical setup, I found that they come into their own about 800 miles. Talking overseas is great, stuff like that. If you have a wire antenna horizontally polarized, you're going to be better for around town. We talk on 7205 all the time, and we cover the whole state of Florida plus Alabama, Georgia, North Carolina, stuff like that. And we're all running. Most of us are running in bed. Some of the guys are running dipole setups, but yeah, some antennas. And it's a broad question on number 1, but it does require a little bit more research. But that's about the best I can do on that. I do run a lot of HF at the house. I live over in Okeechobee. I'm out here on the big road right now, but it's about the best I can do on that for you. KD4TWS.
KD4TWZ. Yeah, I found that to be the case myself. I used to have an in-fed wire, and I did really well with that. But I also did well doing DX contacts with a vertical.
Call sign is KD4TWS, Tango Whiskey Sierra, and I've done it. I run a Hustler 6BTB at the house, plus a wire, several other antennas, and I lose 2 dB at least by switching over to the vertical antenna versus a wire antenna, and that is locally. And what I mean by locally is, again, Florida, Georgia, Alabama. That's local. But if you're talking a lot of times, and it depends on the conditions, but if you're talking to Europe, I can switch over to the vertical and actually pick up 2 dB, and that is using the same power.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, most of my DX has been with a vertical, so I can attest to that. And thank you very much for helping out tonight. That's what this net is all about, is helping out each other so we all learn more. So how about it? You got some good advice there about your HF, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Advice for HF. If you can run a local from the high point to the low point, if you got room, the better off you'll be.
Off the gut.
That is also a very good point. Well, KQ4FJC, I didn't get your name. Will you give me your name again?
Yeah, the name is Britain Bravo Romeo India Tango Oscar November.
Hey, well, I'm glad we had some folks here to give you some good advice, okay?
A lot of
Contact.
Oh, this is Tom again, KD4TWS. This is not tech related, but I heard somebody mention something about a problem out on I-4. Does anybody have any information on that?
4 is always a problem. I personally think it's part of the Bermuda Triangle. No, I haven't heard anything, but that doesn't mean anything. I don't have any way of finding out what kind of transmissions are made from the various traffic services.
We mentioned so I didn't catch it all because I was actually out of range as a repeater at that point. But I do have to go that way in a couple hours. So anyway, thank you guys very much. Kilo Delta 4 Tango Whiskey Sierra.
Thank you very much, Tom, for the help that you offered on the net tonight. Any more check-ins for the TechNet? Call now.
Recheck.
Go ahead, recheck.
KQ4FJZ, I heard the comment about I-4 earlier. I think that was a general, I-4 is always a problem, and then I just pulled up the traffic for you. It's all green between Tampa and Lakeland at this point. I don't know how far you're going, but I don't see any problems for you.
Northport, actually, by Northport, heading north. I got to run by Tampa, change trailers, and then run over to Orlando. But yeah, it looked like it was all red. Again, I couldn't do a close-up search on it, but it looked like it was red before you get to Celebration up there towards Orlando.
Okay, well, we'll just call this the KT4AS traffic net as well. Not traffic as sending messages, but cars. Any more check-ins for the TechNet? Call now.
Spec Control for YFD.
Comment? Ed, I think that's Scooter, right?
KQ4LUJ. I just wondered if Steve's still on the air. He was the gentleman with the Yagi antenna question. Is he still on air?
Kilo Kilo 4 Victor Romeo Sierra. I'm still reading you.
Sure, can I go direct with Steve?
Have permission, Scooter.
I was just doing a little research on the Yagis, and looks like I was wrong on the 70 centimeters are strictly 70 centimeters, and the 2 meters are strictly 2 meters from the research that I did just briefly. So you might want to be careful. Absolutely check your SWR if you have a meter, and I don't think they're cross compatible. That's not an expert opinion, just what I gathered in my research. KQ4LUJ.
400 to 470 megahertz high gain antenna. Looks like it's ultra high frequency. And by way of thinking about it, if I could just extend the parasitic element about 3 more out compared to the driven element and the reflecting element versus the directing element. And if I could bring them directed elements out progressively smaller, that I just may be able to read 70 centimeters or 2 meters. That was my way of thinking about it. But yeah, I totally understand. Kilo Kilo 4 Victor Romeo Sierra, KK4 DRS.
Roger that. If you do change it, then it's going to be that frequency only. I don't think you'll be able to get both out of it.
Yeah, that was my way of thinking about it. Unless I added a whole bunch of gain to the antenna itself, I would have to go with a 70 centimeter or 2 meter antenna, or 2 meter Yagi antenna. But I'm sure there's some way of converting it somehow, some way or another.
That's just my opinion, and like I say, it's not expert, just the research that I did. And good luck to you. This is Scooter, KQ4LUJ, back to net control.
Okay, I think we doubled. In fact, I know we doubled there. My comment is, if possible, get in touch with the manufacturer and ask them, because I have a vertical antenna that I use on 440 and 2 meters, and it both work fine. But also, I think you ought to invest in a SWR meter. They're cheap. I got one sitting here right in front of me, and it was very inexpensive. It does power and SWR and whatnot. It's not very big. It's not bigger than maybe a pack of cigarettes.
The 4 Victor Romeo Sierra, KK4VRS.
Okay, let's see if we have any last-minute check-ins with questions or comments for the TechNet. Come now.
Net control, KQ4YFZ.
Okay, go ahead.
I've got a question. Gentleman was asking about the counterpoise. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I was in the impression that a counterpoise was used in lieu of a ground when the ground wasn't available to use the counterpoise.
Brand, but I saw it. It's a good one. They normally run around $55, $60, and I saw it on sale on AliExpress for $38. So I just thought I'd throw that out there for Steve, and it'd be a good investment.
Hey, thank you. Good information. Appreciate it.
Net control, KQ4YFZ.
Romeo Sierra.
I'll go ahead and net up. It's been a good one. It's been almost 45 minutes.
KQ4YFZ. I was saying earlier, I have a comment for the gentleman was asking about the counterpoise. I always thought that a counterpoise was used in lieu of a ground.
You know what? That may be the case. Any kind of vertical antenna I've ever had always worked better with the ground.
My understanding was that when you couldn't get a ground because of your soil, you would use a counterpoise that would act as a return. So, and then the question was, I believe last week there was a gentleman asking me about the Yaesu 991A and getting it to show up on a monitor.
I don't recall any question about that Yaesu.
Okay. KQ4YFZ, back to net.
Okay. That's a good radio, though. I think that one of the nicer things about it, and I'm a Yaesu man all the way, even though I've used Kenwoods and ICOMs, and they're both great radios, but the 991A, if I'm not mistaken, has UHF and VHF, which the other Yaesu radios, popular radios, don't have that. They have 6 meters only. So, any more comments before we wrap this up tonight?
This is 4 Victor Romeo Sierra. If you ever get a chance to run across a Yaesu FT897, don't pass it up.
Familiar with the 897. I've got a DX3000, and I used to have a FT890, but I'm not familiar with the 897. Most all your Yaesu radios are good.
I wish I would have never to God sold my Yaesu 897. It was an all-mode, all-band transceiver, and I think that they got it right, but however, they discontinued it. And the only one that they have to offer, Yaesu has to offer, is the F2891. Or, I'm sorry, excuse me, FT891.
Yeah. Well, you're sorry you got rid of your 897, right?
Mistake of my life.
But I have an FT890, 890, which is over 20 years old. It still works, and I still love it. It was voted as one of the great Yaesu radios. Of course, it's a 20-year-old technology, and it doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles, but it's a good basic radio, and it's a good size so that you could use it mobile. Some of these newer Yaesu radios are so big you'd never think of putting them mobile. The one I got sitting in front of me here looks like a suitcase, for goodness sakes. So anyway, I think we're going to wrap this up tonight, and I think I have to answer one of the questions that nobody did. Stand by, please. Okay, I think we got most of the answers. Yeah, the EME contact, we got that one. Yeah, everybody answered all the questions, and of course I'll have more the first Thursday of next month. And I hope you'll be here, because not only do we help each other out with technical questions, which is the main thrust of the network, we also have some interesting trivia, which, by the way, if you want to cheat, I get most of the questions from the QRZ.com ham quiz, which comes out of about every week, and they have about 20 questions, and they're all good ones, and they're not really difficult ones, so... Anyway, thank everybody for joining us tonight. We had a nice list of about 20 people from all over the Central Florida area, and some good information to help out each other. So we hope that you'll come in. Now, next Thursday, there'll be somebody else doing the net who is going to do a stellar job, I'm sure. And we'd like to thank not only the check-ins, but we want to thank the NI4CE repeater system for letting us use it. And I also want to encourage you to be an Elmer in person. If you know a ham, particularly a new ham, help them out if you can. Be an Elmer. Strange word, isn't it? And if you want to be a tech specialist, you can go to the Arrl and find out more information there. Go to the www.arrl.wcf, which stands for West Central Florida. That's where you need to go. That's the West Central Florida section. And if you'd like to become a net control operator for the TechNet, you need a good quality connection to the NI4CE repeater system. You could also be an alternate net control for somebody on a Thursday night who can't make it for one reason or another. And we'd like to thank not only the NI4CE system, but also all the men and women in uniform, including the military, the police, the fire personnel, doctors, nurses, past and present, for their service. This is KT4AS closing this session of the West Central Florida TechNet. And this is Scooter. I just wanted to comment. You do a great net. I enjoy it every time you're on it, and I like the quiz questions, and it's interesting and educational. And I just wanted to thank you for doing it, and let you know that I appreciate you. KQ4LUJ, clear. Oh, I'm going to be embarrassed with all those nice words. No, I really appreciate that very much. I enjoy it. It's a pleasure for me. So that's a perfect win-win situation, and I'm always glad for your participation, because it's always good. So 73s, and God bless, my friend.